This video today is going to be a very basic, beginner friendly crochet stitch tutorial. This is going with my beginner classes, but mainly this one is aimed at kids that I've been asked to do a very slow, repetitive version of my video for basic stitches for beginners, so that it can be watched many times and followed along with without having to rewind and pause and do that again, like replay it. So it's going to be very slower and repetitive. If this is not the video for you, then go and find the other one that is basic stitches for beginners that goes a little bit faster. But this one is going to be a really very child-friendly, beginner-friendly one, hopefully. So first of all, we're going to start with a slip knot, and you need to find the end of your yarn, which is just here, and you need to place it in the palm of your hand like that. And then I am going to stick out my index finger and wrap the yarn around my index finger just once. So I've got the yarn in the palm of my hand and I wrap it around just once, and I have 2 loops on my hand. Now this loop here, the back, which is closest to my thumb, I'm going to pick this up, pick it up like that, and just lift it over the other loop. And I still have my 2 loops. And now this one is closest to my thumb here. I'm going to pick this one up and lift it over the tip of my finger, leaving that loop on my finger. And then I've got the 2 loops, the 2 tails down here, and I pull those tight, and it makes that slip knot there on my finger. One will pull it tight and one will pull it loose, and that is what you want for your slip knot. So we will do that again. We put the yarn in the palm of our hand and we wrap it around our finger, and then the one closest, the loop closest to my thumb, this one, I pick that up and I just lift it over that loop, and then it's sitting like this on my hand. I then take this loop now that's closest to my thumb, pick it up and lift it over the tip of my finger, and then I've got the 2 loops, the loop on my finger and the 2 ends of my yarn here. I pull that nice and tight. Now I'm going to zoom in and show you that again. So the tail is in the palm of my hand. I stick my index finger out and I wrap that yarn around just once, so I have 2 loops on my finger. This loop closest to my thumb, I'm going to pick that up and lift it over the other loop. And now this loop is closest to my thumb. I'm going to pick that up, lift it over the tip of my finger, leaving that loop on my finger. And then I have the tail here in the palm of my hand. I pull that tight and I've got myself a slip knot. And then I'm going to pop that slip knot on my hook. So I take it off my finger and pop it onto my hook and tighten it up by pulling the yarn end that tightens it. And I've got that on my hook. Let me just come in closer so you can see better, hopefully. I've got that slip knot on my hook, and it's on the working part of my hook, the throat, which is right next to my handle, not down here. That is not where you want it. You do not want it near your hook. You want it down here near the handle or on the thicker part of your hook, which is called the throat of your hook. And my slip knot is not too tight. You can see that there's a little gap there. Can you see that little gap just in here? Let me come back into focus, just here. And that slip knot should be able to move freely on the throat of your hook like that. And then because I'm crocheting with my right hand today, I'm holding my hook in my right hand like this. You hold your hook in your dominant hand. So your hook is in your right hand, and I'm just going to put my index finger just loosely on that working loop that's on my hook there. And in my left hand, I'm going to hold my yarn and I'm going to yarn over and I've got the 2 loops on my hook, and you want to take this back loop over this loop and off your hook. So you can use your fingers to start with if you need to. You want to take this loop like that over the tip of your hook and then slide it back to your handle. It's very important you slide it back to your handle after each chain you've made. So you yarn over, and you can see the 2 loops on the hook. You're taking this back one that's closest to your handle, and you are lifting it up and taking it over the top of the hook and then slide it back to your handle. And what we're doing is making chains. The way that I hold my yarn is I hold my yarn in my left hand like that, and then I stick out my index finger. I hold the chain that I've made with my thumb and my middle finger on my left hand, and my hook is in my right hand. Now to yarn over, my hook is facing upwards, facing the roof, and I am going to yarn over like that, and I'm going to turn my hook, and when I turn my hook, I grab this yarn with the hook and I slide the chain down the throat of the hook with my left hand, and then it comes off my hook and I slide it back to here. Let me zoom in and show you that. So I'm holding my yarn, my hook is in my right hand, I'm holding my yarn through my left hand, and I'm pinching that tail, that chain that I've already made, with my middle finger and my thumb on my left hand. And I'm holding my yarn like this. My hook is facing up. I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to turn my hook towards my lap. And you will see as I do that slowly, the yarn is hooked under the hook, and I pull that through the loop on my hook, and then I slide it back to my handle. So I yarn over, I turn my hook towards me, and then I slide the chain down, and I use the hook to grab the yarn, and then I slide it back. So I yarn over, with my left hand, I pull this chain here and slide my hook, slide the chain down the hook and turn my hook towards me, and the hook catches that yarn over and pulls it through the working loop. And then I slide it back to my handle, and I'm making a chain. So I'm back here. This is called my working loop on my hook here, and I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to hold the chain in my left hand and slide it down towards the hook end and turn my hook towards me and use that chain and hook to pull through. So I yarn over, my hook is facing that way, the roof. I yarn over, I slide the chain down, and I turn my hook towards my lap, and I pull that chain off. So I yarn over, and I turn my hook towards my lap, and I use that hook to pull that chain through. So yarn over, turn the hook towards me, and use the hook to pull it through that loop on my hook. Let me zoom out as well and see if that's also helpful. So my hook is facing that way. I yarn over, I turn my hook towards me this way, and then I pull the chain, this chain here, with my left hand, and I pull it through like that. So I yarn over, pull it through my hook, yarn over, my hook is facing up, turn my hook towards me, slide the chain down the throat of the hook and pull it off that yarn over. Hopefully that makes sense. So yarn over and pull it through the chain, yarn over, pull it through the chain. And I will zoom in one more time and keep going. So I'm yarning over and I turn my hook towards me and I use my hook to pull it through the chain. Yarn over, turn my hook, pull it through the chain. Sliding it back to my handle every time is very important. I'm making sure that my chains are the correct size by doing it that way, that they're not too tight or too loose. I don't want my chains too tight. If they're too tight, it is very hard to work into when we do the stitches. So we are yarning over and going into the chain. And now I have my chain made. Because I am right-handed in this video, I am actually left-handed, but I'm doing it right-handed. You can see my chain is along here horizontally and it runs this way. Now to count my chains, I will show you how I count my chains. Let me put my scissors there so it stops my hook from rolling. And I'm going to show you how to count the chains. I will zoom in and move that just a little bit over. All right, when we count our chain, we never count this loop on our hook. This is called our working loop, this here. We do not count that. We count underneath that. So my first one is here. So I've got 1, and see how it's flat on the top. The other side will be bumpy. It's much easier to count the front side where it is flatter. So lay your chain like this horizontally down. And we count, let me just move it along a little bit. So our first one is here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So I've made 25 chains there. And you're looking at these little bumps along here, along the top. This is how you're counting your chains. So you're counting this whole part. You're counting the bump on the bottom or the bump on the top. It depends how you see the chain. Everybody's brain works differently and everybody will see the chain part differently. But if you isolate a chain, that is one chain in there. So I count it by the bumps along the top just because I find it's easier for me to count it that way. If you find it easier to count it by the bumps along the bottom or the whole chain, count it whichever way you find is easier to see it. Now, I'm going to show you how to do a double crochet. So when we do a double crochet, we do not start in that very first chain. If we started in that very first chain, our double crochet is not going to be the correct height. So we have to do what is called a turning chain. And the standard for a double crochet is generally 3 chains. I will explain to you in the next rows what the difference is. But first of all, we are going to yarn over. So yarn over on your hook, and I want you to find 1, 2, 3, 4 chains from your hook. So again, we yarn over. So we have our working loop on our hook and our yarn over on our hook. And then we're going to count and find the 4th chain from our hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to put my hook into that 4th chain just like that. And then I have, you can see here on my hook, I have my working loop, I have my yarn over, and I have my chain space. Now I am going to yarn over again, which it will just kind of go just like that and just be there on the hook. And I just want to take this chain space off. So just like that. And then I have my 3 loops on my hook. And the chain is at the bottom of my hook and my hook is facing the roof. I'm going to yarn over. And I've got 4 loops on my hook. I want to take these middle 2 loops, these 2, off my hook together. So I'm going to pull them off the hook together and slide it back to my handle, making sure that my chain is at the bottom of my work, and I've got 2 loops left on top. So I then yarn over and pull that yarn over through the last 2 loops. And that is making a double crochet next to my 3 chains. I will show you that again. Take that one out. I've got my working loop back on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over, and I'm just going to hold that yarn over with my right finger there so it doesn't fall off while I count my chains. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 4th chain from my hook. So I want to insert my hook from the front to the back, just like that, into that chain space. And then you'll see I've got my working loop, my yarn over, and my chain space. And then I'm going to yarn over again. Again, it will just sort of sit there, and I'm just taking that chain space off the hook, just like that. And I've got 3 loops left on my hook. And my chain is at the bottom of my work. And you can see, you need to be able to see those 3 loops very clearly. You need to be able to differentiate them. Sorry, you need to be able to see them clearly and not have them twisted or mixed up or even pushed down like that. That's making it harder for yourself. So make sure you can clearly see those 3 loops on your hook, and make sure they're not twisted or bent over each other. And then we are going to yarn over again, and we are going to take the middle 2 loops, these 2 loops. So you've got one back here. These 2 loops are the first ones to come off your hook. And then you've got 2 left. You're going to yarn over and take those 2 off your hook. And that is your double crochet. Now we're going to do that all the way down. I'm going to show you very slowly how to do it. And we're not skipping 3 anymore. So we only skipped 3 on the first one to get the height for the row. See how it's kind of the same height as that? So it looks quite similar. My tension is probably a bit on the smaller side, so I could probably just skip 2 chains. But for now, we skip 3. And then we yarn over, and we want to go into that very next chain along. So when it's down here on the table and you look at it, you can see here that my double crochet is in this chain. So my next chain along is just here. So I've done this one already. I'm going into this one next. So I am going to yarn over, and I hold that yarn over behind my work, behind my chain. So it's out of the way and it doesn't come off. And then I put my hook into that chain, just like that, picking it up just like that, and I'm in that chain space. So again, you can see I've got my working loop, I've got my yarn over, and I'm in the chain space. And now my working yarn is back here. I'm going to pick that up and yarn over just like that. Tuck it under the hook so it stays under that hook, just like that. And then you are grabbing this chain, just the chain space, and lifting it off the top of your hook, and then sliding it all the way back to your handle, adjusting it so it's nice and even, and you can see your 3 loops nice and clearly. And so your chain is at the bottom of your hook, like under here. And then we yarn over again, and we take the middle 2 loops off, just like that. And then you've got your 2 loops left, and we yarn over and take the last 2 loops off. Notice I'm going very slowly and very loose. I'm not going tight. You don't want your stitches tight. If your stitches or your chains are too tight, it makes your work very hard to see. So looser, especially for beginners, is easier. And now I have a double crochet in this chain and a double crochet in that chain. Now this one here is my next one along. just here. So I've got one here, and here is where my next one is. So I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into that chain, just like that. So you can see the 3 loops on my chain, working loop, yarn over, chain, yarn over again, and take the chain. Pick the chain up and take it off and over your hook, just like that. And now you've got your 3 loops. Yarn over. Make sure you can see your 3 loops nice and clearly. Yarn over and pull that yarn over through the first 2 loops, the middle 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. And you can see I've got 3 double crochets made now. 1, 2, 3. This one is in this chain. So here is my next chain along. It's very important not to go into the same chain where you've already gone, because then you'll be increasing your chains, your stitches. So we yarned over. We're going into this chain from the front to the back, and then we yarn over and pull that through. That first step is called pulling up a loop. So what I've just done there is I've yarned over and pulled up a loop through my chain. And I've got my 3 loops on my hook, and my chain is at the bottom of my work. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through those 2 loops, and yarn over and pull it through those 2 loops. Every time I do this, I slide it back to my handle and I make sure my tension is consistent. I'm aiming for consistency in my stitch height. I want my stitches to be the same height and the same height and same width. We're going for consistency. We're not going for perfection, we're going for consistency. So now you can see I'm in here. I've got my double crochet here into this chain. I'm going now into this next chain along here and working a double crochet. So I pick up my work and I make sure my chain is at the bottom here of my hook is facing upwards, and my chain is at the bottom of that. And I'm yarning over, holding that behind my chain, that yarn over, so it's back here, out of the way. And then I'm going to go into my chain, stab it from the front to the back, just like that. And you can see I've got the working loop, the yarn over here, and the chain. So I yarn over again and I pull a chain up, pull a loop up through that chain. So I've pulled that loop up. Let me just adjust this so you can see clearly, hopefully. You can see why it's called pulling up a loop. See, I've pulled that loop up through that chain and it's on my hook just here on my hook. This is my first yarn over and this is my working loop. So now I've got the 3 loops on my hook and they're at the bottom of my hook and my hook is facing up. I'm going to yarn over again and I'm going to take these middle 2 loops off my hook, just like that. I'll pop it back down so you can see where I'm going. And then I've got the 2 loops left on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and pull it through those last 2 loops. And now you can see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double crochet. I'm going into this next one here to do number 6. So I'm going to pick up my work. I'm going to make sure my hook is at the top and my chain is at the bottom. And I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to insert my hook from the front to the back like that in the chain. And then my yarn over will just be there and I'm going to yarn over and pull that loop up through the chain. So I'm in that chain now and my 3 loops are on my hook. I yarn over and pull it through the first 2 loops or the middle 2 loops, however you see it, and yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So now we're going to try and go a little bit faster. So I've yarned over, I'm going into my next chain here, front to back, just like that, and then yarn over and pull that loop up through there. And I've got 3 loops on my hook. My chain is at the bottom, my hook is facing the roof. I am just going to hold my work right here, right under those loops, to make a nice tunnel to go easily through that, the first 2 loops. And then I move my hand up a little bit higher, pulling these open, these 2 loops open. I yarn over, and then my hook will just glide through those last 2 loops. And I'm going to keep going all the way down. So I yarn over, hold my yarn over behind my chain, go into the chain from the front to the back, grab that yarn over and pull a loop up nice and tall. So I can go through the tunnel. I yarn over and pull it through those 2 loops, and yarn over and pull it through the last 2 loops. So again, yarn over, find your next chain along, which is here. I've gone into this one here, this chain. See how it's pulled up that little hole there? You can see I'm in that chain, and I'm going to this chain now. So I yarn over, stab it from the front to the back, yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain space, And I've got my 3 loops on my hook. I yarn over and pull through the first 2, yarn over and pull through the last 2. So keep going. Yarn over into the next chain along, yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain with your 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops, yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So yarn over into the next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And yarn over. Look at how our chain's looking now. Nice and consistent and not missing any chains. We're going into each chain along. You can see the bottom bump now has a chain worked into it, has a double crochet worked into it of each chain. So now I'm up to this chain here. This is my next one. I yarn over, insert my hook front to back, yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain space. And then I've got the 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Just loosening up my yarn a bit, so I've got a bit of slack on my tension. I don't want my yarn too tight. And now I am going to keep going down along here. So I yarn over, insert my hook into the next chain from the front to the back, yarn over and pull up a loop. And I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over into the next chain, yarn over and pull a loop up through that loop with 3 loops on my hook. I yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over into the next chain along, yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And yarn over into the next chain, yarn over and pull a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'm working all the way down to the end of the chain that I have made. Yarn over into the next chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Excuse me. And I've still got 1, 2, 3, 4 chains to go. So I yarn over, go into my next chain, yarn over and pull up a loop through that chain, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. There's my 3rd last, my 2nd last, and my last one is right here. You can see I've got 1 to go. So I yarn over and I go into that chain, and then I yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now I am at the end of my row, And remember here, we skipped 3 chains. So this is the 3 chains I skipped here. So we are not going to count that, and we are going to count all the rest of our double crochets that we made. So we've got, you can count them by counting the post. Let me just take the hook out and loosen that up a bit. So you can count them by counting the post. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust it. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. And remember, we had 25 chains. So I've got 22 double crochet and the chain 3 that I skipped here, which makes 25. And now what we're going to do to start the next row is pop my hook back in this loop, this working loop, and tighten it up. And how we skipped 3 chains here, we're going to make 3 chains straight up into the air. So 1, 2, and 3. This is exactly what we were doing at the start for practice. So I will take them out and show you again. So when you've got your working loop on your hook, you are yarning over and you are taking that back loop off the hook and through that one. So here's my working loop now. I yarn over, I turn my hook down, and I pull this loop through the working loop. And that is a chain. So that's 1, 2, and now I need to make a third one, 3. And I've got my 3 chains straight up in the air, and it looks just like this. Now, what I'm going to do, let me zoom out so you can see a bit better. So I've got my first row of double crochet made, and I've got my turning chain. This chain 3 is called a turning chain. Now, because I'm right-handed, I always need to be working right to left. So from my right hand towards my left hand. And when I'm here like this, I now have to flip my work. So I would turn it like I turn a page in a book. So I move this down a bit and I just grab this end and I flip it just like that. Sorry, that was a bit dodgy. And now my work is ready to go, and I'm ready to start from here down towards here. But I will show you that again. So let me get this tail out of the way. Here is my row completed and my chain 3. I'm going to turn my work like I turn a page in a book. So I grab the page and I turn it like that. And then I will adjust it and come back over here. And I am working down towards here. If you find it easier to use a visual aid, this is where you would get your little stitch marker and put it in. This is the double crochet, the first double crochet I made, and this is the top of that double crochet. So I'm going to put a stitch marker in here. I think I am anyway. Yep, there we go, finally got it. And I am working towards this green stitch marker now. Now, where I'm working this row, I don't have chains anymore to work into, but I have these lovely little V's. If you can see these V's, they come all the way down the top of my work here. When I look at it from the front, it's not particularly easy to see the V's, but if I slightly turn it back here, I can see the V just here. And this is my first V. Right here, this is my turning chain. So I'm going to work a double crochet into that first V, which is just here. And it's important to remember to go under both loops of that V. So both loops of that V is right here where I've got this blue sewing needle. So my chain 3 is here. Here's my chain 3. Here's the first stitch that I'm going into here. And here's the next stitch. See the V there? I've got both loops of the V and I'm underneath that. I'm not going down in here. That's between the stitches. I'm going up here under the V. So I am going to hold my yarn, remembering this is the bottom of my work, and I'm working from my right hand towards my left hand, which is where this stitch marker is. So I'm going to yarn over. I'm doing exactly the same double crochets that I did here on this first row, but instead of into the chain, I'm now working them into the V's. So I yarn over and I find that first one, which is just here, and I put my hook under both of those loops of the V. See the two loops of the V on my hook? And then I yarn over and pull up a loop through that V. And I've got 3 loops on my hook now. And I'm in that V exactly how I was in the chain space, but now it's the V. And I yarn over and I pull through the first 2 loops, and then I yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. Now I'm going to put a stitch marker here to say this is the first stitch of this second row. I'm going to get a different stitch marker color. I'm going to go with blue here. I'm not going to put it in my chain 3 because that does not count as a stitch. I am putting it into the V that I have just made on the double crochet. So that goes just here, just behind that working loop. So here's my working loop. My hook would be in here normally, and the V, normally you would be holding it like this and you wouldn't see it. So you need to move that working loop out of the way and find the V right behind the working loop and put your stitch marker in there. So I will show you with my hook in. Here's my post double crochet. Here's the stitch. The V is the stitch on the double crochet. This is the post here that I have made, and this is the V. So now I'm going to keep working all the way down into each V along here and make double crochets. So exactly the same as we've been doing. We yarn over, make sure our hook is facing the roof, and then we insert our hook into the next V along, catching both of those loops of the V and going from the front to the back. And then I will yarn over and pull a loop up through that V. So you can see my loop is pulled up through the V there, and I have 3 loops on my hook. I yarn over and I pull through the first 2 loops. I yarn over and pull through the last 2 loops. So now you can see I've got 2 double crochets and my turning chain, which we just ignore the turning chain. And now we're going into the very next V along, which is just here. Here is my next V under both of those loops. Both of those loops. So we pick up our yarn again, holding the chain at the work that you've done at the bottom, and your hook is facing the roof, and you've got your working loop only on your hook. You yarn over, you go under that V from the front to the back like that, and then the yarn over just naturally is there. You yarn over and pull that through that V. You pull that loop up through that V, and you've got your 3 loops on your hook. You yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And we are doing that all the way down our little swatch of double crochet. Just going to loosen my yarn up a bit and get rid of that bit of fluff. And remembering we are looking for the next V along just here. We've worked in this one. We're going into this next one here. Can see where we have been? We're going here. Just in there under both loops and pull up a loop. And then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So yarn over into the next V, yarn over and pull a loop up. 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So this is a US double crochet. Yarn over, insert from the front to the back under the loops of the V, yarn over and pull up the loop, and yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. all the way down until I get to my green stitch marker, which is down the left hand side. So I yarn over into the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm just going to keep going now, and you can watch me do it. My yarn's getting tangled on my holder. I'll zoom out for the last couple in case that is easier for some people. So yarning over into the next V along, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And I'm nearly at that green stitch marker where I will show you what we do to get to the next row again. So here's my stitch marker. This is my last stitch. Here's my stitch marker. This is the last V. So I've yarned over and I'm going in where that stitch marker is. So under both those loops, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. And then you've got your next row done. So I am going to do my 3 chains and turn my work again. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to yarn over and pull that front loop through the back loop. That's 1, 2, and 3. And then I've got my work here like this. I'm going to zoom out so you can see. And then I got my 3 chains made, and I'm going to turn my work. And I'm going to work back down along here. So I'm going to take that green marker out. I'm going to do my first stitch in here. This is my first V. So I'm going to yarn over and do my first stitch in here. Yarn over, pull through 2. And then when you do this last yarn over, you'll see that it creates the stitch. So it creates that V that is just here behind that working loop. So here's my hook. I'm going to pick up my green stitch marker and go under that first V into here. So the 2 loops, hopefully you can see that clearly, 2 loops in that gap. And then I'm going to keep working all the way down. Oops. Pull that out, I just made a mistake. So into my next V, and I'm going to go all the way down until I get to the blue stitch marker. I'm not going to talk you through this row, I'm just going to keep powering down here. And then I want to show you something that is important. So I'm just doing my double crochets as per normal, working right to left. So now I'm working down towards that blue stitch marker that I put in the other row when I did that stitch. Oops, I just bumped the camera, sorry. Working down towards here. Double crochets, yarn over into the V, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over through 2, yarn over through 2. As you practice, you will get faster as well. If your work is tight, remember you need to slide it back to the handle on your hook to loosen those stitches up. And if you pull on this here, it makes your working loop looser. If you pull on this, the working yarn, it makes it tighter. So pulling this down, I open that loop up. So if your work is tight, pull on your work. Don't pull on this working yarn that is attached to your ball, because that makes your work tighter. So you yarn over into here, pull up a loop, pull this down, opens up those loops on your hook. Yarn over through and yarn over through. It just makes it easier if your work is a bit tighter to pull on your work. So you know you pull on your work, not on that, not on this. This is going to make your work very tight. So try not to pull on that. You're pulling, and when I say I'm pulling on it, I'm just gently pulling it down, not enough to distort the work, just enough to open those working loops up on my hook to be able to get that hook through smoothly. Now I'm nearly at the blue loop, the blue stitch marker, sorry. And I'm going to show you something at the end of this round that I need to fix. And this is very much based on tension. So generally you start with, let me zoom out. You can see I'm in the blue stitch marker. Zoom in, sorry. You can see I'm in the blue stitch marker there. This is my turning chains. See this turning chain? It kind of sticks out a little bit, and I want my edges to be a little bit straighter. You can see it sticks out just a little bit here, just a tiny bit here, not too much, but I'm going to try turning chain of 2 this time. Instead of 3, I'm going to do 2. And this for my tension might be a little bit better. So I'm at the end of my row. You can see I've done my last stitch where my blue marker is. I'm going to do 2 chains. So I'm going to yarn over and pull that through the working loop once and twice. And then I'm here and I'm going to turn my work like I turn a page in a book, just like that. And I'm going to work down towards this green marker. So I'm going to pick up my work and I'm going to go into that first V gap there. So 1, 2 chains is skipped, and I work into that V and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to move this blue stitch marker from that row up to here, just under there like that. So I'm under both loops and I close that up, and then I'm going to work down to this green stitch marker and show you that my tension is better for a 2 chain rather than a 3 chain. And what that means is your turning chains should be the same height as your double crochet. So some people might be better off chaining 3. Some people, like myself, might be better off chaining 2. And that would go for your first row as well. You would skip 2 chains or 3 chains. It's generally 3, but it's also often a lot of the times 2. But it's really just working out your tension and working out what your tension is suitable for the turning chain. It'll either be 2 or 3, and that's totally normal. It's just getting the height of your double crochet the same height as your turning chain. So I'm going to work all the way down here. I'm not telling you what I'm doing this row because hopefully you've already picked this up, and you could even fast forward this bit if you need to, just watching to get to the end or working with me, and I will show you that turning chain of 2 again, and then you'll see how it gives me a straighter edge. Some patterns will even count the turning chain as a stitch, and therefore you would skip that first space. It just depends on the pattern and how it's written, and the pattern should tell you whether the turning chain is a stitch or not. So into that last stitch marker, that green space, and then again I'm just going to chain 2, 1 and 2, turn my work like I turn a page in a book. Now can you see that even there it's a little bit sticks out a little bit, that's a little bit straighter. I've got a little bit of a straighter edge on this side now with that chain 2. It's a little bit, it's more the same height. The chain 3 sticks out just that little bit further, and you can see it's not giving you a flatter edge like that one. So now I've chained 2. I'm going to do my first stitch into here and move my stitch marker up. So I take this green marker out here. Oops, my hook just rolled away. And I pop it into this V here, which I accidentally pulled a bit too tight. So 1 and 2, I split the yarn. I'm just trying to not split the yarn, sorry. Just give me a second. So here's my V, I've just loosened it up. I want to go under there and put my stitch marker in there, which is that first V. There's my post, that's the chain 2, I'm ignoring that. Once I do a little bit here, you'll be able to see, especially because this other side has more turning chains, you'll see that this chain 2 makes my edges a lot straighter. And that's what we want. We want straight edges. Oh gosh, I've tangled my yarn up. Okay, so keep working down here. So yarn over under the V, pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2, all the way down. I'm going to stop here for a minute and just show you. But you will see 100%, you can see it on this side. See how my churning chains stick out much more, and this one's nice and straight. These 2 are straight. This is what we want. So for my tension, I know that the chain 3 is too big. If yours sticks out like this and curves around here, then the chain 3 is too tall. You need to try a chain 2, and that will be hopefully straighter and more consistent for your tension. And that is the basic video for double crochet US. Thank you.